Did you have problems renewing or applying for Medicaid? Did you have difficulty using the website? Did you experience long wait times on the phone? Did you have to turn in the same paperwork over and over again? Did you find that the letters from DHS are hard to understand? Don't let them take away your health care. Call Arkansas Community Organizations today at 501-376-7151 or 870-536-6300. Call 501-376-7151 in Central Arkansas or 870-536-6300 in Arkansas. Healthcare is a human right. Call today. Get the help you need.
Say, can you see by the blood in the street?
Have me worried there for a second. Yes, I thought you was playing the real national anthem.
This is not the land of the free. But the home of the slave.
Yes, welcome to Community Voices. You are live right here with Reverend Dr. Denise and your co-host, the Pastor Toney Orr. We are going to be having this conversation that's rooted in this rendition of Jill Scott's The National, I don't even want to call it the Star Spangled Banner. This is her rendition of, I want to call it the Black Banner. That's what I want to call it, the Black Banner. And so we'll be talking about that. So we are so glad that you are here. The phone lines absolutely will be open at 501-433-0088. As a matter of fact, let me cut them on and turn it up right now. Phone lines are open at 501-433-0088. As always, we will not get started with our show without first taking some time to pay homage to you, without first taking some time to celebrate you, without first taking some time to honor you, because it is because of you, the people, the voices, that we are here at KABF 88.3 FM, where we are the voice of the people. In August, we will be celebrating 39 years of being on air as a local community radio station, one of only 12 100,000 watt community radio stations that exists in this country, and we are proud about that. And we have broadened our reach, so we are now global. We've got people listening from Australia, we've got people listening from Africa, we've got people listening from all over the world, and it is because of you listeners that we have this space where we can talk about the things that we believe are real issues that affect real lives, that real people are living. And so thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much for your encouragement. Thank you you so much for your feedback. Thank you so much for your challenges. Thank you so much for how you participate all the time. We are grateful for you. It seems like we are having a little bit of technical difficulty again on today. I meant to tell you, Toney, that Monday when I tried to listen to y'all, I could barely hear you on the radio. I meant to call in and say that. But anyway, I'm going to keep on talking while Tony's trying to work the board. Something is happening in this space, though. Some of you have never been in the studio, and we do hope that one day you will be able to see our sacred spot. But there's something happening on the wall. You can see some exposed wires, which means that they are working to get our new equipment in place. And we are excited that is happening. So please know that the equipment is yet on its way. We are getting ready for it, doing everything that we can to make sure that we can enhance this experience for you every single Tuesday. Not just every single Tuesday, but every day. KABF 88.3 FM, the voice of the people, is live. When I say live, we have shows all day, every day. And so we want to enhance all of those experiences for those of you who listen to us on a regular basis. So I do want to say, again, to express our gratitude. I have some announcements that I'd like to make this morning before we get started. I don't see any paper in Tony's hands. I'm not sure if he has announcements, but when he comes back, I will make sure that he greets us and shares whatever announcements he may have. We've been, well, here's Toney right now. So before we get started with the announcements, greet us. Yeah.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Just wanted to say thank you for tuning in this morning. Just really appreciate all of you who have supported KBS 88.3 FM over the years. We have an intern for this summer for about 8 weeks. Her name is Jasper, and she has been putting together a spreadsheet going all the way back to like 2000 and putting together a list of all the people who have donated over the years. And when I tell you, when she got to, she's still working on it, but she said, you know what, we're up to 3,000 people already. And some of these are just repeat, a lot of them are repeat. But to have a list of that many contributors to KABF 88.3, and we're still searching and trying to find out more. So it's a great thing, and just wanted to thank all of you for tuning in today.
I have some announcements. We've been following some people for quite some time, and I want to make sure that I give us some updates. Charles Mugaga listens to us from Kampala, Uganda. He is the leader of the Kids Gear Infant School, and he has been charged with the crime of being LGBTQ, in his case, being a gay man in Africa. He came out a couple of years ago by showing up at one of the Pride events. He had some flags. He put them around the classroom. He was just excited to finally be able to say, this is who I was created to be, and I am living into it. As a result of that, because the president there signed into law on May 29th an act that criminalizes people for identifying as LGBTQ or being identified as LGBTQ. You don't even have to come out of your mouth. If somebody else says that you are, then you could go to prison for up to 20 years just for the identification of it. And there are some more crimes that if you are a young adult, if you are a youth and you say that you are LGBTQ, you could go to prison as well. So this is a really harsh law that was enacted. And so Charles was charged with the crime of being gay and has been in court. And so we've been following the court case. And this morning, I got a message from him that it looks like the charges are likely to be dropped.
Yay!
The people who wrote the letter that instigated, yeah, that's right, that initiated this criminal court case. They want to admit that they wrote it, so they cannot find the source of the letter. The letter is the basis for the charge, and so that is the reason why it looks like the charges are going to be dropped. So we are excited. We have been with him all along the way. We have been helping him write statements. We've been helping him secure lawyers. We've been helping him craft his responses, and so we are excited to announce that we are looking forward to these charges being dropped. I also want to let you know about Williams. I don't know if you all remember Williams. I remember reading one of his poems I actually performed it at one of our storytelling events. Well, Williams is out. We talked about that later, but he is enrolled at Shorter College and is working on on a degree in entrepreneurial studies. I think that's it. He's going to go on from Shorter to work on a degree in business administration, and he is looking to get a transition scholarship. And so Shorter College has a scholarship that's offered to people who are making their way back into the non-incarcerated world. And he's looking to make that happen. So again, we are coming alongside to make sure that we can help in any way secure that scholarship for him. And so we want to announce that he is in school, in school and starting work. He should have started work last Wednesday, or is it tomorrow? I don't know, but he's also working. So I'm excited to give you all that update. Want to give you an update on Hotel. We've been talking about him for the past 2 weeks. We've been sitting on in space, sacred space, holding space for him as we wait for the doctors to determine whether or not he was going to lose his leg. And last night he reported that he is at home with his leg.
Yeah.
There is an infection that is bleeding, that is leaking down into his foot. That is cause for concern. We are going to keep our eyes on that. But right now, he still has his leg. He is at home. He is resting. And we are glad to be able to make that announcement. Want to give a shout out to Leonard. Leonard does not listen to the show, so he does not know that I'm giving him a shout out. So I will have to call him and say, look, you need to listen to the show because I gave you a shout out. But Toney had to go to Chicago last week. I had to go to class at 5:30. And so we thought we were going to have to cancel Domino's in the Park because neither one of us were going to be there. But I started thinking, like, do we have to be there for Domino's in the Park to take place? Like, are we Domino's in the Park, or is it a community event? Leonard shows up for Domino's in the Park every single Friday. So I reached out to him and said, Leonard, do you think that you can hold it down for us? He was like, yeah, I'll be there. So Leonard, Chessmaster Toney Davis, I know that they were in the house because they were there before I left. And then I had to go. I don't know. I haven't talked to Leonard yet. So I don't know how many people showed up, but they were there. Oh, Ezekiel showed up.
Man.
I was on my way to my car. He come back, roll it up. And so I wish I could have seen that game. When I tell you, I wish I could have seen the three of them play that game. I am so sorry that I missed that, but I am so glad to announce that community is community. There's not one person who is community. Community is all of us working together to make it happen. So Domino's in the Park will take place on this Friday. We start at 5 o'clock. We leave at 7 officially, but if it's going down,
It's going down.
then we will stay until all hearts and minds are clear. Is that what they say in the church? We'll stay until all hearts and minds are clear and everybody's ready to go. And then then I also want to announce game day. I'm calling it In and Out with T. That's what I'm calling it, game day. In and Out with T. My mama, with her 86-year-old self, has been looking for a spades game for quite some time. Knees say, that's what she called me. Knees say, I want to play some cards. And I could not make it happen. I tried to reach out to my ex. I was like, hey, can you come play cards with my mama? Well, her lover wasn't trying to have it. And so I'm like, what can I do? And so finally, Toney was like, let's go to the sanctuary. I'm like, yes, let's do that. So we have secured the sanctuary at 520 East 16th Street on this Saturday from 1 to 5 p.m. We are inviting the community to come out and play cards with my mama.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. She is so excited. I cannot contain the excitement. So we're going to go play cards. And if you think my 86-year-old mama can't play cards, you are wrong.
Let me tell you something. She's a card shark. She used it 86 years. I know personally. Yeah.
She whoops up on Toney on a regular basis. So we are inviting you. Everyone is invited. And this is how this is going to work. It's from 1 to 5, but we are not asking anybody to stay from 1 to 5. You come in. If all you want to do is meet my mama, come meet my mama. If all you want to do is show up and just say, hey, just show up and just say, hey. If you want to sit down and play some spades, let's do that. We'll also have dominoes, chess, checkers, Jenga, sequence, taboo. Like, we're going to have a whole host of games in the space. We'll have a couple of things for you to nibble on, a little bit for you to drink. But this is not about eating or drinking. It's about playing cards with my mama. So again, you are invited to come be in and out. That's what I mean by in and out. You do not have to stay. You don't have to give us any excuses. You don't have to call us and tell us whether you're coming. If you show up, you show up. If you don't, it's fine. I promise you, it's going to be fine. And so that's happening again at 520 East 16th Street, Little Rock 72202 at the Sanctuary. And it's on this Saturday, which I don't really know the date, but it's this Saturday coming up, and I am excited to invite you. And finally, the announcement that I want to make is a special thanks to all of you who participated and showed up for the Black Love event. It was this past Saturday on the 8th, and it was delightful. It was evocative. It was mind-blowing. It was challenging. It was enraging. Like, it made some people mad. So it did all of that, which is what it was designed to do. So Black Love 3 is in the books. It is now ready to be edited. Omaya is our sound engineer. He is ready to edit. I've got to do some taglines. By the time we get it together, I will let you know, because once it is edited, we will begin to play it, a version of it, shall I say, on the radio at KBF 88.3 on Sundays. So thank you so much. Special thanks to Ingrid Hunt, Bruce James, Sahaya Freelon, who were our conversationalists, and to the 47 people who packed the house. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Black Love 3 is in the books. Want to make sure we get to our EJI tidbit. Tony, do you have something to say?
No,
Okay.
I'm waiting on the topic. That's what I'm saying.
Well, we're getting to the topic. It's rooted in Jill Scott singing the Black Banner. I told you that's what I'm gonna call it, the Black Banner. That definitely wasn't the words to the Star Spangled Banner, but it was the Black Banner. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. But today is the 11th. And so in 1954, on July 11th, white residents formed a white citizens council to organize and carry out massive resistance to racial integration of public schools in Indianola, Mississippi. Again, in 1954, on July 11th, white residents formed a white citizens council to organize and carry out massive resistance to racial integration of public schools in Indianola, Mississippi. I am from Mississippi. I live in Jackson, Indianola. It's about 2 hours, I think, because I drive through Indianola, headed to Greenville. When I was a pastor there, I had to make that trek a lot. And so this is a very, anytime we talk about Mississippi, Mississippi was one of the worst states when we think about the history of trauma, the terror of KKK, of Jim Crow, like all of those things. Mississippi was hit the hardest. And so when we think about this happening in Mississippi, you can only imagine the way it was in Mississippi. Other states, surrounding states, are like kissing cousins. People ask me a lot, how do I feel living in Arkansas, when I say that I'm from Mississippi? And I say they're kissing cousins. There's not much difference in the politics. There's not much difference in the makeup. There's not much difference in the attitudes. There's not much difference in the way that people approach race relations. And so to think about in Mississippi having this tidbit talk about the resistance to integration in public schools in 1954, we still have a resistance to integration in public schools even now. We think about Central High, which is a historical site, because when we think about the Little Rock 9, and even now it's 2 schools in one. Even now on that campus, it's a segregated space because of the way that they are dealing with race in the space, the way that they are dealing with Black bodies and non-white bodies in that space. And so these stories continue, which is why I wanted to bring up Jill Scott's Black Banner, because she is reminding us through the words of the song that these stories, these experiences continue. And I want to say thank you to Mr. Henderson. Mr. Henderson, no, he keeps me on my toes. That's who sent me the song. I had not even heard the song. The song was sung at the Essence Festival, which happens at the beginning of July every year. And and I've not been yet. I want to go so bad. I haven't been yet. And so Mr. Henderson said, and this is how he does it. He won't even offer any commentary. He don't call me on the phone, let me know he's sending me something. He doesn't call me on the phone and ask me if I got it. He'll just drop something in my text messages. I feel like he's saying, I'm just gonna drop this right here. And so he dropped this song, and I am so glad. Again, this is how community shows up to make sure that we are staying abreast, staying relevant, paying attention to what is happening in our midst. And so we have this song by Jill Scott singing these words. Oh, say, can you see by the blood in the streets that this place doesn't smile on you, colored child, whose blood built this land with sweat and bare hands, but will die in this place and your memory erased. Oh, say, does this truth hold any weight? This is not the land of the free, but the home of the slave. She sings this song at the Essence Festival, and it goes viral. And because it goes viral, that means that anybody can find the song. Anybody like me can be sent the song. Anybody can come into contact with the song. And because of that, you've got people from all walks of life sending in their comments, giving their commentary, giving their opinions about how they feel about this song. And so there's a whole group of white folks with their back, they are unleashing their backlash against this song. And so I was reading through one guy's, I didn't even take the time to learn his name because I don't care. I just wanted to know what the people were saying in response to his backlash to the song. And there was one comment in particular that caught my attention because it said that they did not appreciate Jill Scott using the Star Spangled Banner to spread hate and to divide, because that's what's wrong. We keep talking about a situation that no longer exists. We keep talking about things that no longer happen. And if you keep talking about these things, that's what's creating the divide in our country. So that's the gist of what the comment was. And I said, it continues to baffle me how we are living in a world where things are unfolding right before all of our eyes, but we see them differently, or we choose not to see them because by not seeing them, we can remain comfortable in our own privileges. And so because of that statement about how we need to stop talking about things that no longer exist, that's why we read the EJI tidbit, because these things happened in 1954 and it's still happening now. And you ask me, how does 1954 relate to 2023? I can say it simply, the Learns Act. That right there is a resistance to the racial integration of our schools, because through the Learns Act, you don't want us to teach the things that really unveil the truth about a more accurate understanding of who we are historically and how we continue to discriminate against Black bodies, especially in the educational arena. And so here we have this song, and I took the time, because what I want, the topic for today is proof it. Because what the white people that are writing on these feeds, what they're saying is that what Jill Scott is alluding to, like it's an illusion. What Jill Scott is saying is something she just made up. They're talking about her voice, how she doesn't sound good, and then they talk about this. How dare she say that she's being oppressed in a country where that has allowed her, these are the words, that has allowed her to make so much money. If you so oppressed, how come you have money? If you so oppressed, why do you live in a nice house? If you so oppressed, how come you are successful? These are the comments that are coming forth from this opinion and the people who are reading this opinion and deciding to chime in. And so to think that because you have money, that means that you are not oppressed, continues to remind us that we do not have a clear understanding of what's happening to us in this world as it relates to racism and classism. Because classism is a system in and of itself that affects us all, but especially poor white folks. And so when we think about racism as one system, classism as another system, and the integration of those systems and how they work together to create another system like capitalism, we are bombarded by all of these systems that are plaguing our lives. And then white people tell us as Black folks, why you keep talking about that? Because that's no longer the truth. That's no longer your experience. And I just want to ask white people, how you know my life? How you gonna tell me what I am experiencing? How you gonna tell me what's happening? And how can you tell me that I'm not being discriminated against when I know what's happening in my own life? What I need you to do is step back and listen. And so when we hear these words, oh, say can you see by the blood in the streets? The first person I thought about was Michael Brown. Do you remember the story of Michael Brown?
Mm-hmm.
Michael Brown, 18-year-old black man who was gunned down in the streets of Ferguson, Missouri, and his literal blood. We're not talking about, people are listening to this song from Jill Scott and they're thinking about it as allegory. They're thinking about it as symbolism. They're thinking about it as creativity. They're thinking about it as innovation. No, this is literal. We can pull the report. We can roll the footage and show you where his blood, you can see the darkness of his blood intermingle with the water in the street as it is rolling out, as it is pouring from his body, as he's lying there, and his own mama is trying to get to him, and the cops won't let her. And so when she says, oh, say, can you see by the blood in the streets? The first person that I thought about was Michael Brown. Now, that's not the only person, and that's probably a more recent example, but that's the one person that I thought about because we could literally see this blood that as it was going pouring down flowing down the pavement. And so when she says these words, we are talking about real life incidents, real life experiences that happen to real life people. She goes on to say that that this place doesn't smile on you, colored child. And so I began to think about what could she be making reference to that are real life examples. So people who are hearing this song and getting so offended by it, it's like, where is this coming from? We can give you real life examples of where it's coming from. It's coming from the history of and the continuation of redlining. Mike Orndorff was on our show not too long ago.
Yeah.
Afterwards, we went downstairs and we continued to talk. And one of the things that we talked about was, the work that he's doing in Petaway. And he made a statement about something that's happening in our midst it's redlining, but it's invisible redlining. And I was like, wait, what now? It's not invisible. You think we don't see? Like we are clear. It's clear to us how this country and how this state and how this city continues to mark out places that they deem acceptable for Black folks, and that they then say that these areas are not acceptable for Black folks. We don't want you over here in the Heights. We don't want you over here in Hillcrest. We don't want, and you probably know the neighborhoods better than I do because you come from, those are the only ones that I can really name because I know them from being a transplant to Arkansas. There's certain areas that you carve out for Black folks. And then if you have Black folks there, you would have a certain type of Black person, right? And so here's where we talk about people. When we have people, especially people who are who have been convinced that they are white and that somehow makes them better, that they will say, well, Jill Scott lives in a gated community in Tennessee. How dare she say something about being oppressed? And so you pull out these people that Malcolm Gladwell will call outliers, and you point to them and say, well, see, there's one Black person, so don't say that we discriminate because you got a Black person that's living in this neighborhood. And that's not how justice works. Justice, we say it when those of you who say the Pledge of Allegiance, it doesn't say something about justice for all. It's supposed to be justice for all, but if you can only point to justice for Jill Scott, then that's not justice if it's just for one person. If you can only point to justice for Oprah Winfrey, I'm using justice, defining it as financial success. That's how I'm using it in this context, because they say she makes money, so therefore she can't be oppressed. And so you say, well, I want to lift up Oprah Winfrey because she's a financial success, and so here's a Black person, then that's not justice. Justice is supposed to be what everyone can experience, what everyone can live into, what can be made manifest for all of us. That's what justice is supposed to look like, not just lifting up one person. We still have situations where we say this is the first Black person, the first Black person to get this, and the first. As a matter of fact, after this happens with Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri in 2014, it was after that they get their first Black, first female mayor. It's after that they get a first Black police chief in Ferguson. So it's after these things happen where you are now on blast for your racism and your discrimination and your dehumanization that you look around and say, oh my goodness, we need at least one Black person so we can say that we are not being discriminatory. And that's just not how this works. And so when she says that this place doesn't smile on you, colored child, again, we can go to the Arkansas Learns Act. We can talk about the fact that there's no law of habitability in Arkansas. That means that you are not concerned about me, particularly as a Black person. You're not concerned about anybody that's written, but particularly as Black folks, because anything that's happening to you as a white person, if you feel like you are being harmed, if the world is treating you unfairly, then you times that by 25, and that's what we are experiencing as people who are non-white. And we can talk about voter suppression. You are not smiling on me if you won't even let me vote, if you are making it more and more difficult for me to vote. Oh my goodness, I was hoping that it was going to go down at the Black Love event, because you had one conversationalist, Bruce, who was saying, we need to vote, we need to vote, we need to vote. And then you had another conversationalist saying, when are Black people going to realize that your vote will not, no, let me be careful. What they said was, I'm not going to tell anybody not to vote. I would never tell anybody not to vote. They made that crystal clear. But I will ask you, is this the only way that you can see yourself participating in your own future? Or is there another way that you can get to work? Is there another way that you can build? Is there another way that you can manifest community that works for us rather than putting your trust in electoral politics? And so I was waiting for them to go back and forth, but they were so nice. They were a little too nice for me, but they were so nice. So voter suppression, somebody walked up to me after the event and said, I can't believe that we are attacking the vote when if it were not important, they would not keep coming for it. So we do need to vote. So voter suppression reminds us that this place being this country does not smile on you, colored child. So already, just in the first 4 lines that Jill Scott sings, bringing up Michael Brown, bringing up redlining, gerrymandering, the electoral college, voter suppression, the lack of reparations, segregated education, a formula for paying for schools, all of that reminds us that this place does not smile on us, colored child. And then she says, whose blood built this land with sweat and bare hands. First thing that I thought about is, do you remember when First Lady Michelle Obama was living in the White House and she woke up one day, no, she didn't wake up one day. She was giving a speech to the Democratic National Convention. And she said these words, I wake up every morning in a house that was built by slaves. And white people went ballistic. How dare you say that the White House was built by slaves? So wait a minute. You don't know your own, again, you don't know your own history. Yes, the White House was built, and I'm not going to call them slaves. And I am going to call us to action on that. I'm going to call us to action and ask us to stop calling our ancestors slaves. Okay? They were not slaves because they were enslaved. And here's the difference. When you call a person a slave, basically what you're saying is that it's the essence of who you are to be one who is dominated. It is the essence of who you are to be one who needs to be guided and led into all decision making because you are not intelligent enough. You are not capable enough. You do not have the cognitive skills to make decisions on your own. So you need somebody else to lead you and guide you in the ways that you need to go. The essence of who you are is that you are dependent, that you are inferior, that you are forever in need, that you are perpetually in a state of not being able to be independent. That's what it means when we say slave. Now, listen carefully. I am not saying anything about the people who came before me using slang. I'm not talking about them. I'm not saying anything about that. I'm saying where we are now with the understanding that we have now, we can choose a different language. And so we can say enslaved because what that does is it puts the onus on the evil person who put our ancestors, put the people in bondage. So the onus is not on us that we are slaves. It's on the people who had the audacity to believe that it was okay to own a human. So you made people dependent. You put people in bondage. So we're going to call you out by reminding us that people did this, that you did this to a group of humans. You chose to treat them this way. You chose to be evil. You chose to dominate. You chose to rape. You chose to slaughter. You chose to kill. You chose to maim. You chose to terrorize. You chose to traumatize. These are your active decisions. That's what we need to make sure we focus on. And using the language of enslaved allows us to do that. And so there was a whole big just like with Jill Scott's song, there's a whole wave of people who identify as white with this backlash saying, how dare you say that this White House was built by people who were enslaved? But the building of the White House started in 1792 and did not end until 1800. So for 8 years, you had people who were enslaved working as axemen, stone cutters, carpenters, brick makers, sawyers, laborers. They were quarrying stone. They were cutting timber. They were producing bricks. They were using their physical labor to assemble walls and roofs. They were doing all of that for 8 years to build the White House. And it started in 1792. Which is 16 years after the Declaration of Independence declared us to be an independent country. So we just got through celebrating the 4th of July and saying that the country is free. And 16 years later, your ancestors are building the White House for free for 8 years. We got to be careful how we how we deal with our own this country. Got to be careful how we deal with this country. Careful how we let this country deal with us. And so for you to say, yes, let's celebrate the 4th of July, and your own people still in bondage, and then you use these people to build a White House, and now you got people occupying the White House I don't want to say people occupying the White House, but you got people in DC who are using this country and what the White House symbolizes to legislate on your behalf, and they don't care nothing about you nor your ancestors. And that's what the conversationalist was asking you to think about. These people that's in politics, this bipartisan Scott goes on to say, she said, whose blood built this land with sweat and bare hands, but will die in this place and your memory erased. And here's where I was absolutely positively convicted, because I could not even begin to remember all the names of the people we've been saying, say your name for. Remember all the people that have been gunned down in the street, in their homes, all the people who have been traumatized just by being Black, who've been killed just for being Black. You were walking, you were barbecuing, you were sitting down in a coffee shop, wherever it is, just being Black caused you to be killed. I could not even think. My list was short of the people that I could remember. So when she said, you'll die in this place and your memory erased, I had to go do some homework. I said, let me go pull some names. And I wanted to pull some names that we are not familiar with, because she talks about the memory of those that have been erased. So I don't want to talk about Eric Garner. I don't want to talk about Michael Brown. I don't want to talk about Freddie Gray. I don't want to talk about Alton Sterling. I don't want to talk about Philando Castile. I don't want to talk about Sandra Brown, because these people, we know those names. So here's what I had to do, because I did not have enough time, nor did I have enough paper, nor did I have enough ink in my pen to write all of these names. So what I decided to do was pull in somebody from the 1800s. And then I started in 1930s, and I went decades. I got one person for each decade, bringing us up to 2000. And then from 2000, I got one person per year. These are people whose memories have been erased. Here are these names. Henry Truman, 1870. Barry Lawson, 1938. Harrison Ware, 1941. Daniel Bell, 1958. Rose Abraham, 1967. Philip Gibbs, 1970. Lloyd Stevenson, 1985. LaTanya Haggerty, 1999. Richard Holtz, 2000. Annette Green, 2001. Eddie Macklin, 2002. Sharquisa Johnson, 2003. James Perez, 2004. Henry Glover, 2005. Herman Barnes, 2006. Anthony Smasham, 2007. Terica Wilson, 2008. Dominique Washington, 2009. Tyrone Brown, 2010. Flint Farmer, 2011. Sharice, her last name starts with an F, 2012. Leonard Thomas, 2013. Jordan Baker, 2014. Janisha Fonville, 2015. Donnell Thompson Jr., 2016. Ateria Woods, 2017. Stephon Clark, 2018. Mario Clark, 2019. Andre Hill, 2020. Dante Wright, 2021. Tracy Gaeta, 2022. Alonzo Bagley, 2023. I had not even heard of those names. Your memory has been erased already. This is what Jill Scott is singing in the Black Banner. These are the words that we need to take heed to, not because we want to give opinion on whether or not she should have changed the words to the Star Spangled Banner, but the question she asks that comes up next. Oh, say, does this truth hold any weight? She asks you the question. Don't just take her word for it. Don't get mad because she changed the word. Put her to the test. Pull the record, roll the footage, do some homework, read a book, and see whether or not she's telling the truth. Got Charles on here. Hey, Charles, see you from Kampala, Uganda. Greetings from Africa. Yes, we've already talked about you, Charles. We are thinking about you and holding space for you as we watch your case unfold. Here we have Phyllis Brown. Yesterday on Down with Debt, the question was asked, should the government be responsible for eradicating poverty? Yes, governments created poverty. So that goes back to Jill Scott's words. Oh, say can you see by the blood in the streets that this place doesn't smile on you, colored child, because it created poverty.
I think one of the things that we have to address is that there's not a clear, people are not getting a clear understanding. And I think in so many different instances where there's not a clear understanding, it's hard to find the truth. When, there's a lot to unpack here when I listen to the song, and I know just by Jill Scott doing it, there was going to be a backlash from a lot of white people because they hold this song so sacred. They hold this song so dear to their heart. It's like this anthem of who they are. But most people only hear the first Francis Scott Key's first verse of it, his first stanza. If you go deeper and hear the second stanza, he talks about slavery in the second stanza of the song, but nobody wants to talk about that. You mentioned the Learns Act. And part of the Learns Act is that we want to give money to people to send their children to private schools, send their children to parochial schools, send their kids to their children to Christian schools, because we want them to be indoctrinated in what we believe they should know. And let's face it, what you're basically saying, this is where the class comes in. And I know, Denise, I like the way you explain that, because a lot of people don't understand the difference between classism and racism, but and then they don't understand that they both work hand in hand in the oppression of Black people especially. And I'm going to give you money, so we're going to segregate our children, our white children, from our privileged children, from this place that may teach the truth. We don't want them to hear the real truth. We want them to hear our truth. And as these things start to play out, and you said something about Michelle Obama, and I think, and it made me think about this, Barack Obama was the president of the United States. Most, arguably the most powerful man in the free world, as they say. But he was oppressed. And the reason he was oppressed is that for 8 years, they talked about his birth certificate. They talked about him being Black. It wasn't about whether he was an American citizen. It was about him being Black. Then he gives a speech to a State of the Union address before Congress and the Senate, and they stand on one of the elected officials stood up and called him a liar. A liar. Total disrespect. See, that's the oppression. And when you were talking about how white society used the words, we have afforded you, or we have made it available, and they love to use this term, we gave you, which to me adds to the oppression, because it's like you can't have nothing unless we let you have it. So when I hear these words from Jill Scott, it resonates in me, and it should resonate in all of us, that at some point in time, we have to stop. We have to think, yes, do these truths hold weight? Yes, they do. And if you can't understand that, and you can't recognize that, then you have no true understanding of what's actually happening in this country and in the world when it comes to Black people.
And that's what the space is for. So Jasper, you mentioned Jasper not too long ago, who is our intern here at KBN, doing an excellent job. I was walking out a few weeks ago and she gave me a phone number. She said someone had called in who did not want to be on the air but wanted to talk to me. And so I reached out and I didn't get a call. So I kept reaching out because I want you all to know I'm serious. When I give out my phone number, area code 228-236-7440, area code 228-236-7440. When I give that out, I'm serious about engaging in conversation. And I'm serious about no matter what your comment is, whether you are pushing back, whether you are challenging, whether you are supporting me, whatever it is that you have to say, I'm willing to listen to it. I'm willing to have the conversation. And so he called, I kept calling him until I got him because I wanted him to know I was trying to reach him since he was trying to reach me. And what he wanted me to do was stop talking the way that I'm talking on the air because he feels like I'm dividing folks. And so I keep asking myself, what are people hearing? Because that's not the first time somebody has said that. Some people actually call in and say that I'm part of the problem. I am the one who's spreading hate. I'm the one who's causing the divisions. And as I kept talking to him, what I realized is that what this is about is that you don't want to hear these things because of how they make you feel. And that is what we are fighting when we talk about the resistance to CRT, when we talk about having to implement something like the LEARNS Act, when we talk about the legislation that has been introduced and in some cases enacted over the last couple of years. It's because the senators and the members of the House of Representatives, what they will say as they are writing these bills is that I don't want any child to feel. I don't want any child to believe, to know. I don't want it to get into their body the accurate understanding of who we are as a country, because I don't want them to feel a certain kind of way. I don't want them to feel guilty. I don't want them to feel sad. Whatever those feelings are, I don't want them to experience that. I want them to always believe that everything is high to high and okay. And that's just not real. It's not real life. In order for you to move, in order for you to grow, in order for you to develop, you got to feel, and you need to feel what's really happening. That's just like in my own life. There are times when I am sad, and every time somebody sees me sad, the first thing, put a smile on your face, and I'll tell them, no, I am sad right now, and I'm going to take the time to feel the sadness so I can work my way through it. I want to sit with these feelings. I want to ask my body, what is it that this means to you? What's coming up for you? I want to interrogate myself. What are you going to do about it? How are we going to take the next step? How are you going to move forward? How are you going to get out of it? And the only way that I can do that is to deal with the situation. And so white people and people who are living under the guise of whiteness, because you don't have to be white to be bamboozled by whiteness. Let's make that clear. But you don't want to feel the truth of these words because you don't like the way it makes you feel. But we are not in the business of making you feel good. We are not in the business of making you comfortable. I am not going to stop saying what I'm saying because you don't like the way it makes you feel when you hear it. Instead, what I'm asking you to do is lean into those feelings, because then we can get somewhere.
I think one thing that happens is that when you talk about feeling, and how certain things make you feel, the truth doesn't always make you feel good. It may set you free, it may make you free, but that means that in order to get free, you have to be able to deal with the truth of what you're hearing and what you're listening to. Sometimes I think about this world, especially here in this country, as going to a David Copperfield for the show. For those of you who may not know who David Copperfield is, he's one of the great illusionists, magicians, of our time. And the one thing about magic or illusions, it's not real. It's not real. It's a trick. It's illusion. It's not reality. But you leave feeling like, or you're sitting there feeling like, wow, what a great thing. And so that's how this country operates. They want to make you feel like, oh, everything is okay. And they do this great illusion. And they do it in a way that makes you feel like, oh, okay. So I have a house. So I have a job. So, I have a few material things. I have some bling bling. And so, yeah, it's okay. But in reality, it's just an illusion, because the magician, which is society, white society, politicians, however you want to frame it, they're the ones that control it, what you actually see. And what you actually see does not necessarily mean is true. But if you get caught up in the illusion, you forget about reality. Of course, he does not make a 747 disappear in front of you. That's just ridiculous. But it was there and now it's gone, and you're like, wow. So now what you want people to believe is that, yes, there used to be slavery. Yes, there used to be Jim Crow. Yes, there used to be redlining. Yes, we used to do this, but we don't do it anymore, because now we have this illusion of freedom. You have this illusion of laws to protect you. We have this illusion of affirmative action. We have illusion of you have the right to vote. You have this illusion, but we know that's not the reality. But because we feel good, then we forget about reality. And that's where, when you talk about feelings, that's where that has to come into play. You have to sit, and no matter how bad it makes you feel, you have to realize this is the truth. And this truth holds weight. The truth is the truth.
Phyllis Brown says, I suspect the individual who alleged your comments to be divisive would not accuse Rush Limbaugh as being racist or racially divisive. I thought about that too, Phyllis. I wonder how many times do these people that call me, I wonder how many times they call white people shows and say, I don't think you should say this. So it's really interesting to me how many people call me to silence me, how many people call me to tell me what I should and shouldn't say on the show, how many people call me and tell me what I ought to be doing, as if they feel like, because they feel like that's their duty, okay? And so if you feel like that's your duty to call me and tell me what I ought to be doing, let me remind you of what my duty is. My duty is to remind us of what a more accurate understanding of who we are is. Because I think that for me, I would be the person that says, I'm gonna go up to David Copperfield and I'm gonna say, you didn't do that, this is not real. And then you know what I believe David Copperfield would say to me is, prove it. That's what I believe he would say to me. So for those people who are listening to this song from Jill Scott, when she says, oh, say, can you see by the blood in the streets that this place doesn't smile on you, colored child, whose blood built this land with sweat and bare hands, but will die in this place and your memory erased. Oh, say, does that truth hold any weight? This is not the land of the free, it's the home of the slave. If you tell me that that's not true, my response is, prove it. And the only way that you can is to do some homework. The only way that you can is to read. The only way that you can is to engage in some conversations outside of what you're doing now. Because I asked the white man, what you doing? He said, well, I shouldn't, he said he shouldn't be held responsible for what happened in the past. I said, I'm not holding you responsible for what happened in the past. I'm holding you responsible for what you're not doing about it in the present. What are you doing about it? You know what he said to me? I'm living life as a Christian.
You know what's so funny is you said something that when you talked about the White House, and there are people who said, oh, the slaves didn't build the White House. When we know the truth is, this country, even our so-called esteemed senator from Arkansas, Tom Cotton, said slavery was a necessary evil to build this country. When you say that this country was built on the backs, the blood, and the death of enslaved people, the first thing they were like, no, our founding fathers built this. Oh no, the Rockefellers built this. Oh no, you know, all these people built America. Who you think?
No, we built America, so this is our land. So how dare you tell us we need to go back to Africa? How dare you tell us that we got to stand for that? You don't get to tell us what to do. This is our country, okay? And we fight now because you are under the illusion that it's yours because of how you set up these systems. I want to say this before we go. We've only got 3 minutes. I am still reminded by Mr. Willie's words. He has issued a call to action that we read more. As Mr. Willie was issuing that call to action, I was already reading All Boys Aren't Blue. It is one of the books that have been banned because it is about it's written by a black man. It's written by a black man who identifies as gay. No, he doesn't identify as gay. It's written by a black man who is gay, and it's written about his experiences being gay and the discrimination he experiences, not just for being a gay in the white world, but also for being gay in the black world. And so I was reading that book, and so I finished that book. It is a book, again, it's been banned. All Boys Aren't Blue by Michael Johnson. After that, I read The Black Queen by Jamada Emile. It is for young adults. After that, I read Stacy's Extraordinary Words by Stacey Abrams, and it is a book for elementary school children. So I've read all those books while Mr. Willie has been encouraging us to read. Now, I'm asking y'all, what are y'all reading? So on Thursday, well, I can't say what y'all gonna do on Thursday, but on Tuesday, I want y'all to call in and tell us, what are you reading? Now, I've got a book that I want to lift up for all of us to read so we can have a Community Voices book club. And the name of this book, thank you, Phyllis Brown, for recommending. Do y'all know what a wonderful resource? Phyllis Brown is just a wonderful resource, period. But when we talk about literary, if you want to find a book, if you know what you need to be reading, she'll help you find a book. I'm telling you. So she lifted up this book for me a long time ago, and I'm now ready to read it, and I'm asking y'all to read it with me. It's called White Too Long. It's by Robert P. Jones. The Legacy of White Supremacy in American Christianity. That's the name of this book. White Too Long. The Legacy of White Supremacy in American Christianity. So let's read it together, talk about it, deal with it, struggle with it, sit in our feelings with it, so we can have real conversations that'll move us forward instead of you sitting back feeling like you can call me, tell me what I ought to be doing when you have not taken the time to be educated and to be informed. Let us all take the time to be educated and be informed. Thank you so much for reaching out. For joining us for Community Voices. We are live right here every single Tuesday from 9 to 10. And following Community Voices every single Tuesday from 9 to 10 is your girl, Lola, in the house with the jazz. So don't touch that dial. You don't want to miss what's about to happen to your body when you listen to this music. We'll see y'all soon.
Hi, this is Alanis Morissette. You're listening to KABF 88.3 in Little Rock, the voice of the people.